It started with a ring, or more accurately, the absence of one. Brittany had worn her hair down that night, soft waves she half cursed in the humidity, but left as is because Jen said they looked good, and her green slip dress, the one with the low back and thin straps that made her feel like someone who had her life together. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching. She'd shaved her legs, moisturized like she was prepping for a commercial, and even bought a fresh shade of lipstick. Not red. Something a little more grown. She thought she was getting engaged. Instead, she got dumped. Well, not exactly dumped. Not verbally, anyway. No, her boyfriend had just happened to leave his phone unlocked on the table while he went to the bathroom at the overpriced rooftop bar he insisted on. She hadn't even meant to look, wasn't that kind of person, but the screen lit up. Last night was perfect. I still taste you. One of those texts that makes the world tilt sideways. She didn't even remember standing up. Just that her stool screeched loudly against the floor, heads turned, and her legs carried her out into the thick summer night, like they knew what to do even when she didn't. She didn't cry right away. She Ubered home, stood in front of her bathroom mirror, like her reflection might give her instructions, then opened the fridge, stared into it, closed it again, and sent one message. "You up?" Jen replied almost immediately. "Come over. Bring your sad girl wine." That's how Brittany ended up on Jen's couch an hour later, barefoot, cheeks streaked with mascara, holding a half-drunk bottle of rosé that tasted like college. Jen handed her a bowl of popcorn without asking any questions and let her start crying only after she took the first bite. Jen's place wasn't big. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, clean enough to pass inspection but messy enough to feel lived in. It smelled like coconut conditioner and fresh laundry, which Brittany found both unfairly comforting and infuriating because Jen was the kind of person who didn't even try to be put together and still managed to look like a curated Pinterest board. She wore bike shorts and an oversized tee with a faded Smashing Pumpkins logo. Her dark hair was twisted into a loose bun at the nape of her neck. No makeup, no effort. And still, Brittany had to look away sometimes. Jen wasn't beautiful in a flashy way, but there was something magnetic about her. Like she lived entirely in her body, unbothered, unafraid. Brittany had never thought about that too hard, until tonight. "You want to talk about it?" Jen asked softly after a long silence filled only by crunching popcorn. "I thought he was going to propose," Brittany said, voice hoarse. "He made this whole plan, dinner reservations, told me not to make other plans. He even, God, he asked me to wear the green dress, said it was his favorite." Jen made a sound between a laugh and a scoff. Wow. The audacity. "Right?" Brittany sniffled. "He left his phone on the table. Amateur mistake." There was a text. She looked down at her lap. From someone else. A woman. Jen didn't say anything for a while, just shifted slightly on the couch, her knee brushing against Brittany's. The contact was small, casual, but Brittany felt it like heat spreading under her skin. "I'm so tired," Brittany whispered. "Of men, of trying, of being good and sweet and supportive, and still not being enough." Jen reached for the bottle, refilled Brittany's glass, then her own. She didn't say sorry or offer platitudes. Instead, she clinked her glass gently against Brittany's. "To you, for not smashing that bottle over his head." That made Brittany laugh, a little. "I considered it. I'd have helped bury the body." They drank in silence for a moment. The room was dimly lit, a single lamp glowing in the corner. Outside, summer cicadas buzzed through the open window, and the air felt thick with the kind of heat that made everything a little slower, a little more dangerous. Do you want to sleep over? Jen asked after a while. You can have the bed. I'll take the couch. I don't want to be alone, Brittany admitted, surprising herself. Not tonight, Jen nodded. Then you won't be. And that's how they ended up in Jen's bed, fully clothed, lying on top of the covers, side by side, with the fan whirring above them. Brittany's head was buzzing, not just from the wine, but from the kind of heartbreak that didn't break clean, the kind that stayed in your bones. You ever feel like your body's not even yours anymore? She asked quietly. Jen turned her head to look at her. What do you mean? Like someone took everything good out of you and left you hollow. Jen didn't look away. Her eyes were soft, thoughtful. No, I think maybe you just forgot how good you are. Brittany looked back at the ceiling. How do you remember? There was a pause, a hum of tension that wasn't there before. Jen's voice was quiet when she spoke again. Sometimes it helps to be reminded. Brittany turned to face her. By who? Jen didn't blink. Someone who actually feels you. Brittany's pulse quickened. The room felt warmer than it had a moment ago. Or maybe it was Jen's gaze, or the fact that Jen hadn't looked away. I don't know what I'm doing, Brittany murmured. You don't have to, Jen said. I just want to make you feel something that doesn't hurt. Her fingers brushed Brittany's wrist, light, tentative. Brittany didn't pull away. Can I kiss you? Jen asked. She leaned in slowly, their lips touched. Something inside her unclenched. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't a movie moment. It was better. It was real. The kiss was more of a test than a declaration. Brittany felt the softness of Jen's lips, the warmth of her breath, the closeness of someone who wanted to be close. Her mind flickered through a dozen small, curious observations. The way Jen tilted her head, how their mouths found a rhythm, how it felt. Moist but not messy, warm but not overwhelming. Not everyone kissed well. This, though, this made her want to lean in, want more. There was a quiet awareness between them, like they were both paying attention, both asking, Do you like this? Is this okay? Jen's hand settled along Brittany's jaw. Not possessive, just steady. Like she wanted to be sure Brittany didn't pull away. When they finally pulled apart, Brittany let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. And just like that, something new began. The morning after didn't feel like a mistake. It felt strange, but not in a bad way. Brittany woke up slowly, her body warm from the sun pushing through half-open curtains. The bed didn't smell like her place. Something softer, maybe Jen's laundry soap or the faded scent of last night's shampoo. But it wasn't unfamiliar. Jen's room was warm, cluttered in a charming way. Plants on the windowsill, a half-finished iced coffee on the nightstand, a Polaroid stuck to the mirror of the two of them from the office Halloween party. Brittany was dressed in Jen's tank top and panties, her dress crumpled on the chair across the room. And Jen was in the kitchen. Brittany recognized the smell of toast and Jen's overpriced cult-favorite coffee. She sat up slowly, rubbing at her eyes, unsure if she should feel guilty or giddy. Her body ached in that delicious, full way, not from anything rough, just from being touched gently, thoroughly, like a question answered with every fingertip. She didn't even remember falling asleep. Just Jen's lips on her shoulder, her voice low and reassuring, and a slow slide into something deeper than distraction. Brittany found her clothes, pulled it on, and padded barefoot to the kitchen. Jen didn't turn around right away. She was at the stove, barefoot, wearing only a ribbed white tank and boy shorts, her bun even messier than the night before. There was something absurdly intimate about watching someone you knew professionally, casually buttering toast in their underwear. Brittany cleared her throat softly. Jen glanced over her shoulder, smile forming instantly. "Hey, you hungry?" "A little." Jen handed her a mug without asking how she liked it, because she already knew. Brittany sipped and leaned against the counter, unsure what to say first. Jen beat her to it. "You okay?" The question was simple, but Brittany felt her eyes sting at the gentleness behind it. "Yeah," she said. "Actually, yeah, I think I am." They ate in the living room, plates balanced on their knees, toast crumbs falling onto a throw blanket neither of them cared enough to shake out. It was quiet, but not awkward. Jen turned on a fan, and Brittany curled her legs beneath her, trying not to overthink the way their knees kept brushing. Finally, Brittany spoke. "So, about last night?" "We don't have to define anything if you don't want to." Jen interrupted. Brittany shook her head. "No, it's not that. Thank you for being there and not making it weird." Jen grinned. "I mean, the part where I took your clothes off was kind of weird, but only in the fun way." Brittany let out a snort. "You're impossible." Jen winked. "But hot." They both laughed, and the tension cracked open into something warm. Later that afternoon, after Brittany went home to shower and change, Jen texted her, "Beach later, cold drinks, bad sunscreen decisions, maybe a boardwalk corn dog." Brittany stared at her screen for a second, then smiled. "You had me at corn dog." They drove with the windows down, radio playing whatever Jen's random playlist threw at them. Brittany's hair whipped in the wind, and her heart felt lighter than it had in months. The beach wasn't fancy, just a wide public stretch with hot sand and slightly grimy showers. But it didn't matter. Jen laid out a towel. Brittany dropped her bag. They kicked off sandals, stripped down to swimsuits, and ran straight into the water like kids. The ocean was cold in the best way. Brittany shrieked when it hit her waist, and Jen just grinned and dunked under. When she came back up, water glistened off her collarbones and ran down her arms, and Brittany had to look away for a second to catch her breath. They stayed in until their fingers pruned, then collapsed back on the towel, sun-drunk and salty, sipping canned hard seltzers and arguing about the best boardwalk snack. Brittany said soft pretzels. Jen said funnel cake. Neither would concede. At one point, Jen turned toward her, arm resting behind her head. "So, how's it feel to not be engaged today?" Brittany laughed. "Weirdly freeing." Jen nodded. "Sometimes endings are just weirdly disguised beginnings." Brittany glanced at her then. Her freckles had darkened from the sun, her lashes wet and spiky. There was sand stuck to the side of her thigh, and a dimple on one cheek that only showed when she was squinting into the light like this. Brittany reached out, brushing a grain of sand from Jen's shoulder. Jen held her gaze. "What are you thinking?" That maybe this wasn't just a one-time thing. Jen's voice was soft. "It wasn't. Not for me." "I don't know what I want yet," Brittany said honestly. "But I know I want more of this, of you." Jen nodded slowly, then leaned in, her lips brushing Brittany's like a whisper. Light, sun-warmed, and just the right kind of sure. That night, Brittany invited Jen over to her place. Not for anything dramatic, just takeout and cheap wine, and her favorite playlist echoing from her Bluetooth speaker. The place still smelled faintly like her ex's cologne, but she opened the windows and let the summer night air carry it away. Jen curled up beside her on the couch, head resting lightly on Brittany's shoulder. "You gonna regret this?" Jen asked quietly. She shook her head. "No, I think this is the first thing in a while I don't regret." Jen tilted her head up, smiled, and kissed her again. There wasn't much talking once their mouths found each other again. Just the sound of breath shifting, clothes rustling, the soft press of skin on skin. Their movements weren't slow for the sake of romance. They were slow because they wanted to feel everything. Brittany's hands moved instinctively, relearning Jen's body like it was already familiar. Jen's thigh slid between hers, and Brittany gasped, low and unfiltered. As her body reacted before her mind could catch up, fingers gripped, hips shifted. Sweat bloomed between their chests. A moan slipped out, sharp and surprised. And when Jen's mouth moved lower, Brittany stopped thinking entirely. It wasn't about performance. It was about need. It was tender and a little messy, with knees bumping and pillows getting tossed to the floor. But it was real. When Brittany closed her eyes and arched into Jen's touch, she wasn't thinking about what came next. She wasn't thinking about what label this was or how complicated Monday might be. She was thinking about how, for the first time in ages, she felt wanted. Not for what she gave or what she looked like or what she could fix, but simply because she was her. Brittany didn't expect falling in love to feel so uneventful, not boring, not underwhelming, just quiet in a way that felt like safety, like coming home to something you hadn't realized you'd been missing. It didn't happen all at once. There was no cinematic confession in the rain, just the ordinary intimacy of mornings where Jen made coffee before Brittany asked, or the way Jen automatically reached for her hand when they crossed the street together. There were messy moments too. Brittany still flinched sometimes when her phone lit up, like it might be another betrayal. She didn't always know what she wanted from this, but Jen never rushed her. She never asked for more than Brittany could give. She just stayed. They kept things quiet at work. No reason to announce anything, especially when Brittany herself wasn't sure what to call it. They still ate lunch together, laughed too loud in the break room, sent each other memes during meetings. Nothing new there. Except now Jen would brush her hand against Brittany's thigh under the conference table, or mouth "You're so pretty" when Brittany was mid-presentation, just to watch her blush and trip over a sentence. It was reckless, maybe, but it made Brittany feel alive. One Friday, after a brutal week of deadlines, Jen texted her, "Pack a bag, we're escaping." An hour later, they were in Jen's car with a playlist of 2000s throwbacks and 2 iced coffees sweating in the cup holders. The beach again, somewhere further this time. Less crowded, more blue. They checked into a budget motel. The bed was small, the sheets scratchy. But Brittany didn't care. She dropped her overnight bag on the floor and turned to find Jen already watching her with that quiet heat in her eyes. "You good?" Jen asked softly. Brittany nodded, crossing the room slowly. "I'm better with you." Jen reached for her, fingers brushing Brittany's hip, pulling her in. "That's all I want." They didn't rush. They rarely did. Jen kissed her like she had time to get it right. Slow, thorough, learning her over and over again. Brittany melted into it, into her. Hands slid under cotton and denim, searching, exploring. Not just for skin, but for the sighs and shivers that said, "I'm here, I'm yours." It wasn't about distraction anymore. It was about presence. About choosing this, each other, with every kiss, every breath. Later, they lay together in the dim motel light, sweat cooling on their skin. "I don't think I knew what it felt like to be wanted for real until you," Brittany whispered. Jen kissed the top of her shoulder. "You were always worth wanting. Just took someone decent to show you." Brittany turned to face her, brows furrowed. "You think you're decent?" Jen grinned. "Exceptionally." By August, Brittany's apartment didn't feel like hers anymore. Jason's stuff was mostly gone. Some of it donated, some stuffed in a box in her closet she wasn't ready to deal with. But the air felt stale. Like every room still held the echo of waiting for someone who never really saw her. One night, Jen came over with takeout and a new potted plant. Figured this place needed some actual life in it. Brittany took the plant and studied the tiny label. This is a money tree. Jen shrugged, already unpacking noodles. Manifesting abundance. Brittany smiled. You're such a dork. Yeah, but I'm your dork now. The words landed gently. Not a question, not even a declaration, just a fact. A week later, Brittany asked Jen to move in. They were brushing their teeth, Jen in one of Brittany's old t-shirts, both of them half asleep, when Brittany turned and said it. No buildup, no drama. I think I want you here, like actually here. Jen paused mid-rinse. You serious? Yeah, you make it feel like home. Jen spat, wiped her mouth, and leaned in to kiss Brittany, toothpaste and all. Then let's do it. The next few weeks were chaotic. Mismatched furniture, shared closet space, the usual fights about fridge organization, and how many throw pillows were actually necessary. But also late-night dance parties in the kitchen, half-asleep kisses in the hallway. Morning coffees passed between damp towels and stolen shirts. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. One Saturday, Brittany found Jen on the balcony, reading a book with her feet tucked under her and a blanket around her shoulders. The sun caught in her hair, and Brittany just stopped. Something settled in her chest. I never thought I'd get this, she said quietly, sitting beside her. Jen looked up. Get what? This kind of love. The kind that doesn't ask me to pretend. Jen closed her book and reached for her hand. That's because this love isn't a test. It's a choice. They sat there for a while, listening to the hum of the city, the clink of glasses from a nearby patio, the wind gently rustling the leaves of the money tree by the door. And in that ordinary moment, Brittany felt it. Not fireworks, not butterflies, just peace, just yes.